But this track did come off here on this side, and so we just fixed it, and I'm going to go over that process with you here real quick.
DIY with Chris, giving you the tools to do it yourself. Today on DIY with Chris.
Hey there, DIYers. So we have an excavator that we had rented for a month, and we've been using it in this high gravelly area, and due to that it's been kicking off the track that we have over here. So two references that we're going to need for the rest of this video as I'm talking about them is the wheel that's on this end, and that's your idler, and then the wheel on this end is the sprocket. So they are different, and those are your two driving functions. So you can see right here we have our track. I'm in a very gravelly area, and so what happens, and what's really driving my track to come off multiple times, is some of these, probably about this size of rock, are getting into this sprocket, and then they're separating it from the track, and it's kicking off, and then it ends up popping off the other end because there's not enough tension on it. So we're going to go ahead and fix that at this time. First thing we're going to do is, I do have the bucket down right here, so I've lifted up this side, and so we're just going to lift up the side enough to finish popping the track off onto one side or the other. Ideally, we would like the track to come on this side. I find it easier to put it back on. So once we have lifted up and the track is off to one side or another, sometimes you are able to take it slow and reverse the track in order to get it back on, but I just wasn't able to catch it in time. I did try it a few times, but it had already popped off. So first thing we have to do is release the tension that's on this idler wheel. So when we put grease in here, it pushes that idler wheel outwards, and that's what provides tension on the track. So there's too much tension on the track right now in order for us to try and put it back on. So we're going to find, used to have a plate like this, there's one on either side. It may look different depending on your excavator, but this is a Gehl Z35, and it just has two bolts right here. These are 14 is what we're using, 14 millimeter. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen this first bottom one here. Now this plate on mine and on most, if not all of them, this bottom portion, it just slides. So you just have to loosen them a little bit. You don't have to take them all the way out, and that's going to open it up enough to where you can get access into this is your greasing area. Next tool we're going to need is, I do have a little bit bigger one. I did have to go out and buy this particular socket. All of my other socket sets that I have, the highest they go is 7/8, and this is a 15/16 socket. So that's what mine is. Some of them are a little bit smaller. You just have to see about yours. So that right there is the grease fitting for us, and you can see right in the middle, that's the nipple that we're going to use. But this outer portion is like a nut head or a bolt head. So we're going to go ahead and put our socket on there and go ahead and loosen that up. If you actually read the owner's manual on this, it does say to not loosen this more than one full turn. Now I called the company, the compact company that's in charge of this, and they said what they do is they just take this all the way out, which is what I've ended up doing every time that I've had to do it. So the first time I tried to do it, I just did it one full turn, and I was trying to get the coupler pushed back and that grease pulled out, but it wasn't loose enough, and it wasn't coming out. So we do end up taking it out every single time. This is the third time now this track has popped off through these rocks. Next thing that we're going to do is release the tension off of this, and that's going to be by pushing this idler back. So I prefer to use a rubber mallet. You can use a hammer and a block of wood. That's just a little bit more annoying for the neighbors. It's a lot louder, so this has been pretty effective for us in the past, and this is what I've used the last 2 times. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit this, and what this is going to do with with the grease fitting off, with that pulled out, this is going to start pushing the grease out, and it's going to start coming out of that hole. And you can see it start going back if you look right here. This is the track that it's running on, and you can see that the end of this is actually sticking out past the track. So what I usually do is I keep on hitting this and pushing it until this portion, this front face, is about 3/4 of an inch back, and then I know that it'll be sitting back far enough to where I can maneuver the track over and get it back on. So I don't know how well you can see, but the front face of this is now past the track by about 3/4 of an inch, half an inch, 3/4 of an inch. And so right now, I know that I should have enough, it should be back far enough to where I can get this track maneuvered over. Next thing I'm gonna do is start trying to get this track moved over. So I'm gonna have to dig out this area first so that I can actually shift that track over. A couple things to think about here is there is this guide wheel up here, and so that actually usually gets caught on that middle track, and so you have to pull it up and over. When I have it lifted up this high, the track is sagging. It's all the way on the ground still because it is heavy enough. So what I do, what's going to give you the most room in your track, is I'm going to lower it to where the wheels are just above that middle track, so I can slide it freely back and forth, but they're going to be just above that middle track, and that's going to give me more room on the outsides in order to maneuver it back and forth. If you're dressed warm, you probably want to lose a few layers here, because this is where we're going to start getting into a workout. So I've cleared the track area. What I'm going to do now is turn the machine back on. I'm going to lower it a bit, and then that'll give me a little bit more track to work with. First thing that I'm going to do now that I have it lowered a little bit is I'm going to lock the track off of the back there, and then I'm going to use that extra to pull it up here and pull it on. I'm going to end up having this track on this side of this wheel because I find it easier to push on rather than pull from this other side, and it's mainly because of that guide wheel that's on the middle. This right here is what I'm talking about. I have it lowered now to where those bottom wheels are just above this middle rail. And that's going to give me the most room with this track to work with to try and get over the sprocket. As you can see, now the idler is pretty much inside there. So what I need to do now is I got to start working this back over, and I just have to get one section, one part of that wheel inside of this, and then I can maneuver the track and it'll put it back online. Lift this side up a little bit more now that it's on the track, and I'm going to spin that sprocket and it'll line the track back on. So I'm good on both sides. The sprocket is in on that side, and I have it on the idler on this side. Now we got to apply the tension again. So we'll open this window. Here's the grease that has popped out. So we're going to go ahead and wipe this clean. You want to try and keep it off the track, because it is corrosive material and it'll degrade your track over time. Alright, once you have that area cleared away, then it's time to put the grease fitting back on. But you just need to make sure that your grease fitting is clean, and then we're going to go ahead and start feeding it back in. Now that we've got that grease fitting back in, we're going to go ahead and hook up and start filling it up. As I start pumping grease into it, you'll see the tension on the track We have a few pumps in, and now you can see as I start pumping it, the tension's going to increase. We are going to tighten this according to the owner's manual until there is between 0.3 and 0.5 inches between this bottom wheel and the track itself. Track, and that's all there is to it. It's not too hard. The most difficult portion of this is just getting the track back on. It's a whole lot easier with two people, and we do have some crowbars that we do to help us maneuver it and try and get it back on, whatnot. But other than that, a few easy steps. Just remove the track, undo the window, undo the grease fitting, pound the idler until the grease comes out, and then get the track back on, put the grease fitting back on, pump it, close the window and lock it, and that's really all there is to it. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is a DIY community. If you see a question that I haven't answered yet, and you know the answer to, please go ahead and feel free to answer that. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would greatly appreciate that. I appreciate all of you guys watching and helping each other out, because some of you have been answering some questions, and I really appreciate that. This is for just the DIY community to help each other out. I do need to know if you guys like these longer videos that actually go into full detail and all the problems that I've had while doing projects and tips and tricks for them, or if you just want shorter, under 10-minute, quick tutorials. Please let me know what you think, and have a great day.
DIY with Chris, giving you the tools to do it yourself. Today on DIY with Chris.